We have a challenge in this country, a huge challenge. One half of American adults have a diet related condition like diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. And it's preventable. I mean, that is 117 million people who are sick and could be benefited if they ate healthier. Hi, I'm Kay Loughrey, founder and owner of Sweet Life Wellness. And I'm a registered dietitian-nutritionist and a healthy eating coach with 30 plus years of experience helping people with their health. I help people build a healthier relationship with food. But first, I had to start with myself because when I was 8 years old, I started eating, only it wasn't eating. I was hiding. I was hiding. I was hiding behind food. And when something goes wrong, we want to fix it, right? And I was fixing it with food. I was fixing it with all the pies, cakes, and cookies my mom made for me. And she made the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. I loved them. And that's how I knew she loved me. Then again, the cravings started, and I started yo yo dieting, and my weight went up and down, up and down, up and down. Well, I'll tell you more of that story in a later episode about how I turned my life around. But right now, let's talk about why many of us are so frustrated with our old habits that we want to change. And we'd like to create new habits, but how? Like Lauren, one of the people I've been working with, when she came to me, she was very frustrated and felt so stressed often after work. She'd come home and she'd start eating chips, and then she'd suddenly catch herself and say, "What am I doing? I didn't even want this. I'm not even hungry." And she admitted it was mindless eating. She wanted to change her mindless eating. She wanted to eat more mindfully, but she didn't know how. And that's just exactly what happens. We plan to make a change, and then stress can trigger our fall back to that old habit before we even realize what happened. And that's part of why change is so difficult. So, I mean, how does this happen when we've got half of American adults who are sick because of what they're eating and they wanted to make changes in their habits, but they don't know how? Well, this is what I see happening. And this is what I feel so passionate about. In my career, I worked in health and nutrition for 30 years, and I worked with large organizations, made six figures, and these were organizations like NIH, AARP. But what I saw is that they were not empowering people to make change happen in their lives. And people were getting sicker and sicker. And things like diabetes and obesity were skyrocketing. And in fact, I was shocked when I looked at the statistics, even recently shocked. Unbelievable how in 1958, when I was just a little girl, 1.6 million Americans had diabetes. Then by 2015, 23.4 million Americans had been diagnosed with diabetes by then. And that is an astronomical 1,463% increase. So, why was this happening? Well, the food industry has been churning out cheap, highly processed, supersized foods chock full of salt, sugar, and saturated fat. And they're putting money in their pockets, lots of money. And then we're getting sick. And then we have to go to the doctor. And when we go to the doctor, we have to pay our the health insurance company gets money to put in their pockets. Then we get to the doctor, he or she prescribes a medication, and then the pharmaceutical company also puts money in their pockets too. So why not keep at least some of this money in our own pockets so we can have greater health and we can have greater well-being, and we don't have to go to the doctor every other week, and we can have the energy that we want to have to play with our children and our grandchildren and not have that extra weight that we don't want to have. And guys, I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. So 10 years ago, this coming March, I left my 6-figure job and went into business for myself. I started my business 9 years ago, and I call it Sweet Life Wellness because I want people to be able to live in the sweet spot of their lives. And so what does that mean? That means being able to have a healthy relationship with who you really are and being able to look in the mirror and love who you see. So that's why I do what I do. And that's what I feel is so important. In fact, so important that I've started a new broadcast series for a reason. And that reason is to help you be able to master change and be able to make better choices and live the life that you want to live. And over the decades that I've found that mindfulness has been so helpful for me and the people who I work with. And so why mindfulness? Mindfulness really helps to bring us back to what is important to us. And when we are mindful and present in the moment, we feel much less stress and more joyful. And then it's much easier to make change happen, to create those healthy habits, to master change in our lives. So that's why we're starting out this podcast series with a number of podcasts that are entitled Mindfulness and Transforming Habits. And so we are starting this series out with our first episode next Tuesday at 10 a.m., right just in time for the new year. And we know that lots of people want to be able to create new habits in the new year. They want to start afresh. They want to start the new year right. But whenever you are listening to this podcast, it is the right time to make change happen because you can start afresh at any time. And so now is the right time for you to start making better choices. So, who is this podcast series for? It is for people who want to master change and create new habits. But it doesn't have to be about food. It can be about any health change you want to make. And so what will you experience when you join us for a podcast? You're going to be hearing about how to actually make these changes happen and happen mindfully so that you can consciously and intentionally make better choices, transform habits, and transform your life and live the life you want to live, your authentic life. What I recommend is just listen or watch and be thinking about, become aware of what habit it is that you want to change. And then you can see how to go about it. And if you're really interested, you can dive into the video we have on breathing with breathing exercises and a meditation. And if you want to put the new ideas into action right away, you can open up the PDF workbook we have for you, do the exercises for the week, and then next week we will have another episode and another set of helpful ways for you to mindfully master change. So I want to thank you very much for joining us this week and encourage you to join us next week. But before we end today, you probably want to know, how can you subscribe? Yes, we don't want to forget that important thing. You can go to the Sweet Life Wellness website. On our homepage, you'll see up at the top, you'll see a full section on the podcast series, and you can just click on it, click on the link, and subscribe. So hope you'll join us next week, and thank you for joining us today.